a Wisconsin special election for the Assembly District in District 26. This is outside of Milwaukee, one of the Milwaukee suburbs. This is hardcore conservative base territory. The general calculus of Wisconsin, we'll talk about this more in a bit, but the general calculus of a Republican in Wisconsin is the Democrats are going to run it up in Milwaukee City, they're going to run it up in Dane County, and then you're going to win in the suburbs and everywhere else, and you're going to be able to outcompete them. Well, so this is a part of that Republican firewall of the state that makes it possible for them to win statewide. So we had Paul Melitik as the GOP nominee running against Bob Tatterson. This is Bob Tatterson's second run at this seat. And the Republican won 53-46. So Republican won by around 7 points there. Initially, you think that's like a pretty good sign. You would think, okay, the Republicans kept district. That's theirs. The Democrats didn't flip it. Republicans are in for a good year. Well, it gets a little deeper. When you dig a little deeper, you notice some problems. In 2020, the Republican won this seat by 22 or 23 points.
Wow.
And now the Republicans only winning it by 7. So that's what is that? It's a 16, 15 point, something like that. It's a point swing towards the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. And what that, especially coming out of the Wisconsin suburbs, and that's meaning that the Republicans aren't, they're too extreme for the suburbs now. And this is part of a longer shift of the Democrats chipping away at the Republican suburbs for a long time, which really came to a head in 2018. But what we were learning is they haven't maxed out their suburban gains yet. They're still gaining.
Sure.
And the Dobbs decision, that's a part of that.
Yeah.
I mean, are you surprised?
Not particularly. I mean, I'm less into the data than you, so I'm not sure how this went in 22.
So in 2022...
Is that when the swing happened?
That's when the swing happened.
Okay, I'm not following well enough.
No, that's okay. So that's when the swing happened. So
from 2018.
No, 2022 to 2023.
Oh.
Like from November 2022 to right now, swung Democrat plus 15.
Wow.
Yeah.
But Dobbs was before November 2022.
What? Yeah, it was.
Exactly. So that's why I'm wondering.
Right.
Dobbs hasn't happened between these two votes.
Right. Dobbs. Yeah.
So I don't know what really massive changes. I guess I'm curious about these specific candidates.
So the candidates don't have much special to them.
No.
They haven't really held high elected positions previously. Like they're not like big name ticket guys.
No.
So name ID kind of goes out of the picture. I think it's a general vibe that I think suburbans don't like that Donald Trump is running it up in the Republican nomination, and they're not ready to fall back into the party. That's
okay.
what I think. And I mean, we saw this in Wisconsin too, when we had the election for the Supreme Court judge recently, I think in April, and that went to the Democrat or the Liberal by 10 points. And I think that momentum has been carrying over. I think the Democrats are also building a very good Wisconsin machine that they didn't have previously.
Okay.
But now I want to talk about special elections generally. Like, what are special elections? So special elections are all the elections for legislatures that take place in between all of the general elections on the first Tuesday of November in most cases, right? So these are kind of used by political analysts to be a bellwether, factors. Okay, well, what is going to happen at the next general election? Well, we can use these to be estimates. That's what they do. So I want to run through the recent history of these special elections, okay? So in 2022, the median swing of a special election was Democrat +1 in 2022, okay? And what happened in 2022? The Republicans took the House very narrowly, but they lost a lot of their key Senate races. When we go to 2020, the median swing was Democrat +4, okay? When we go to 2018, the median swing was Democrat +10. 2018 was a massive Democratic wave year. So we can see when there's a massive swing in the specials, you're most likely going to see a massive swing in the generals, right?
Sure.
So now let's go back and let's look at 2022. So far in 2024, we have 2 special elections so far this year. One from Maine and one from Wisconsin, the one we're talking about. And the median swing right now is D plus 12. That's over their D plus 10 in 2018, where they had the massive Democratic wave. We only have 2 so far. How can the Democrats keep up this momentum? But right now, what this is telling me is Democrats have a lot of momentum. A lot of momentum.
I guess so. Which, I don't know. I am surprised. Because it feels like to me, I mean, besides, well, you do have the Dobbs decision. But besides that, what is galvanizing these people? Like,
Well, yeah.
Is it fear of Trump, of a Trump return? Like, is it tiredness of the woke like narrative put forth by the Republicans?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure.
I don't know what's causing it, but it's interesting to see that it's definitely happening. And I think Republicans back in the 2010s and the 2000s, Republicans used to dominate in special elections. Because they used to win the college-educated voter who is a high propensity voter. Now that that's switched, the college-educated voter is now a Democrat voter, and they're high propensity. They vote more often.
Yeah.
They're willing to come out in a special election. You look at the crosstabs for these elections, these special elections have way more college-educated people represented in them than the general elections.
Okay.
All the time.
Interesting.
They're also more likely to have lower minority turnout as well.
Lower minority turnout.
Yeah, lower minority turnout.
Okay.
So this is like a whiter, more educated electoral base during these special elections.
Okay. Well, because that wouldn't necessarily, I mean, more educated.
Makes sense.
Makes sense that you get a Democratic swing.
But you would think less minority
less
turnout.
diverse does not. I wonder if instead of a fear-based motive, is this positive? Is this an approval of the way the economy is doing right now with our extremely low unemployment rate, rising wages? Is it an approval of some of the legislation that Biden has had passed in his term, Inflation Reduction Act, CHIPS and Science Act? Maybe. I'm skeptical again because I just feel like I'm skeptical that the voter base is that informed.
I don't know. I think that voters vote where their wallet's at.
Yeah.
And how people's wallets are doing isn't terrible, but it's not the best.
Because inflation still has happened.
Yeah.
So you still go to the grocery store and like I still see a dozen eggs for $8.
Yeah, like it's still difficult. The prices have stuck. They're not rising, but they're still stuck, right? So I don't know. I think that may have to do with, the governor, Tony Evers in Wisconsin is fairly popular. He's fairly well liked. He recently won re-election. I think that, when we saw in 2022, Mandela Barnes, who was the Senate candidate, ran it up we did not expect it to be a 1-point race, but it was 50.5 to 49.5 with the Republican winning. So there's been left-leaning movement in Wisconsin for a little while. But what separates this from 2022 is all who decided to come out. And I don't think the Republicans are galvanized right now. They're just not.
Sure.
And Democrats are.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing.
No, that makes sense, especially when I do think about the leaders of the party. And although I do read a lot of Biden hate, that's just kind of a very anecdotal online perspective that I have. And I would think that on a grander scale, it seems like it should be harder to really hate or fear Biden than it would be to do for Trump.
I think no matter what it is, it will always be harder to hate or fear Joe Biden. I don't think there's anything the Republicans could really smack him with that's going to make you afraid of Joe Biden the way people were afraid of Hillary.
Exactly.
I don't think it's possible. I don't think you can brand him like that.
No.
I don't think you can.
They'll try.
They'll always try.
Yeah.
But so that is our Wisconsin election coverage.